Hi, team. Welcome to 10 Talks. Today's conversation is all about winning your gut health and how do we do it with physical activity. So much has been out there about both physical activity and gut health. And so we are here to just kind of inspire you, give you new thinking, new skills, new hope, set you up so that you can win your well being. Dr. Hunter, thank you so much for being on our journey, being on our support team. We just really value you and your lifestyle medicine and the ability to be teaming up to really be able to understand the power of physical activity and what it's doing for us physiologically, mentally. So let's start with really that winning strategies, that just describing what it's all about from gut health and physical activity.
Thank you, Carla. Great to be here with you guys again today. So, physical activity, when we think about that definition, it's really any body movement, right? Somewhat different from exercise, which is physical activity you do with the purpose of improving your health. So there's slightly different definitions, but we know that I like to think all movement is good movement. And there is kind of a burgeoning field of science looking at the health of the microbiome related to physical activity. And just like we've talked about with stress management and sleep, when you're more physically active, it has a positive benefit on your microbiome. And it's kind of the same types of changes that we've seen with other lifestyle strategies. When you're more physically active, it leads to an improved diversity in the microbiome, right? That tropical rainforest, all those team members working for you, and really promoting the healthy critters, gut bacteria that we want to see in the gut. And so it's so important to think about how do we build in physical activity throughout our day, throughout our week, and really what's the winning strategy to kind of do the right amount of cardio, right? Get in some muscle building and training. And also thinking about stretching and flexibility. Those are really kind of three buckets of physical activity that we focus on in lifestyle medicine. And, kind of the ideal guideline is we have a little bit of each of those spread throughout our week, really to support our gut health, to support our immune system, to reduce stress and improve our sleep. So you can see how those pillars, right? They're all interactive and hard to separate out. So we're focusing on the physical activity today.
And Dr. Hunter, I want to talk about really the 10 day, how to win our day from when we wake up in the morning to when we go to bed at night, really in a way that we're moving, which I love the power of movement, just being able to be physical. So we've got two different conversations I want to explore today. One is for our high performing athletes, those that are, overseas, they're playing in professional leagues, they're here in the United States, they're doing whatever it is that is the highest level, and they are stressing their bodies really to the max from a physical exertion side of things. They're also training at the very highest level. So I want to talk about really that highest level of peak performance and what that combination of that intense physical activity is doing to our gut health. And I want to talk about those of us that are living a 10 life and we are working and maybe at a desk or not being able to be as physical, and how do we design our 10 day. So I want to start with waking up. We talk about sleep. Let's start with sleep and end with sleep. Winning strategies for how we know we're rested, what we reach for once we wake up, and start with the sleep component.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about those highly trained athletes, they've got the schedule down for the cardio and the muscle building and the stretching and the physical therapy. They don't need my help on how to add those things in. But what I can say is it's the rest of the 24-hour cycle, right? It's the rest of that picture that's really going to make or break your performance. So sleep would be the place that I would start, right? So it really starts the night before or even the day before, right? What are we doing as our calming bedtime routine? Are we letting go of stressful situations? Are we getting off the screens? Are we taking that warm shower or doing some foam rolling or yoga? Maybe doing your visualizations and your I am affirmations and those kinds of journaling processes so that you can get into bed at your ideal bedtime and really fall asleep easily. And those kind of practices will help you get rest throughout the night. And then it's really, let's plan for that 7 to 9 hours overnight. So many people are burning the candle at both ends and kind of the I'll sleep when I'm dead philosophy. So, it may be sooner than later if
Yeah.
you live that way, right? So really planning how I'm going to prioritize those 7 to 9 hours at night for my peak performance. So that means I've got to get in bed at a certain time. If I know I have to get up at a certain time, if you're waking up for 6 a.m. two a days, uh, you got to plan to be in bed by 9 so you can get those 7 to 9 hours overnight for your 5 a.m. wake up, right? So it's really, sleep and performance. We'll think of it as a 24-hour cycle. So having that bedtime routine, having that bedtime and wake up time, kind of regardless of what your day looks like, right? We know our brain really loves a good routine. So knowing what to expect, you may realize that once you start getting into bed at 9 and start getting up with that first alarm at 5, it gets easier and easier, right? Your body kind of naturally is like, hey, I'm ready to go, right? So that's kind of the feeling we want when the alarm goes off, or 5 minutes before the alarm goes off, you're kind of starting to like move around in bed a little bit, kind of coming to the surface, and being able to really open your eyes, and when that alarm goes off, get out of bed and feel ready for the day versus the, oh God, 10 more minutes,
Mm.
hitting the snooze button. So when you kind of get that sleep cycle and that routine in place, then you can really approach the day feeling well rested, feeling ready for what's to come. And so then we talk about what's our morning routine, right? I love a little quiet time in the morning. I get up earlier to craft that for myself, which means I get into bed earlier, right? It all goes back. And whether that's journaling, whether that's guided meditation, I love to sit down with my cup of coffee, maybe it's tea for you. Really for peak performance, we need to be focused on hydration. So for our athletes, it would be starting, what are you starting your day with? Is it water? Is it, maybe a natural electrolyte replacement drink so that we're going to really be hydrated to start our day? One tip for hydration, especially for athletes, when you go to bed at night, the last time you go to the bathroom and urinate, your urine needs to be the color of lemonade or lighter before bed. Otherwise, you're going into sleep dehydrated. And so this is kind of like the pee color test, right? It's something super simple. You're going to check it multiple times a day and really making sure that, if you don't go to bed that way, what is it when you get up? And okay, we really need to be hydrating for performance. And the next part's going to be, what do you put in your body, right? How are you fueling yourself? We've talked really extensively about whole food eating, minimally processed foods, really avoiding the added sugar, the processed carbs. I mean, we know that carbohydrates are incredibly important for muscle building, for rest and recovery, for healing, and not all carbs are created equal, right? We don't want the sugar and the soda and the candy and the donuts and things like that. You really want to be crafting intentionally a high fiber, low glycemic index carbohydrate package that's going to actually fuel your muscles for recovery. And when you do have that intense training schedule, making sure you're making time for rest and recovery throughout your day. It includes the stretching, it includes the massage, the time in the spa. It also includes just some quiet time for reflection and, giving your muscles a break. In lifestyle medicine, we recommend, you're doing a day of rest between muscle groups. So, again, I'm not going to tell intense athletes how to train, but there is such a thing as overtraining, and there's also such a thing as under recovery, right? And our nutrition really can help us recover or not, right? And same as the way of how hard we push ourselves, how often can you come back to a situation and perform even better when you've given yourself some time to rest, whether it's mentally, physically. That stress reduction piece is so important.
So let's talk about the average person that's always amazing and definitely a champion for themselves and their life. And they may be working at an office and sitting. And let's just talk about that power of rituals and routines. So we know that optimum performance is 90 minutes. Now, you may not have that for every person. Some people may have optimum performance for 1 hour, for 30 minutes. The way you can tell that you are not optimally performing is that you begin to get distracted. You think, oh, I think I need to go get some coffee, or I think I need to go to the bathroom, or I need to take, go check something, or you may be working on a project and then you go check your emails. Notice what your mind is telling you. Your mind is saying, I'm not focused anymore. So that's when we want to take a joy break. And a joy break is just like hydration in terms of you think about an athlete, they're constantly refueling with water. And it takes, no time at all to refuel with water, yet it completely sets their body up to be able to peak perform. So when we are just going through life and we're noticing we've worked for 30 minutes or we've worked for an hour and we get distracted, instead of going into the distraction, take a joy break. And a joy break means must insert joy. So you can think of it for 3 to 5 minutes. It can literally be some physical activity, which we're going to talk about getting up, walking outside, getting a little vitamin D. It can be going on your social media. If that inserts joy, that is your test. Every time you take a joy break, you want to ask yourself, do I feel hydrated with joy? So you can call your family, your friends, and say, hey, this is a joy break, must insert joy, right? That means we are not solving problems. We are not doing anything. It's just that virtual connection or that hug. And so think about how many times you can have a joy break throughout your day. So as we talk about winning well-being and our gut health and our physical activity, I want you to think about your joy breaks. So if you're taking a joy break every hour, that means we can get up and move every hour. We can be intentional about which movement we're doing at which part of the day. Paying attention to our body. What do we need? What do I need to stretch right now? Do I feel some stress and anxiety and need to be a bit more active with my movement? So, Dr. Hunter, when we're taking our joy breaks, what are some winning strategies for us to do the combination of movement and what we're eating?
I think that idea of just getting up and moving around, taking a walk, whether it's around the office or you actually get outside and make a lap around the block, those are huge ways to kind of boost your mood, improve your focus, right? We know that all movement matters. So just focusing on getting a few steps, another 150 steps, 200 steps in that hour is going to add up to well being throughout the day, especially when you think about improving our cardiovascular function, which for athletes and for people in our daily lives, we want to reduce our risk of heart disease and stroke. And that's what that daily movement does. So, but it doesn't have to be a walk. You could do a few jumping jacks at your desk or bust out some wall push-ups or some air squats, anything to kind of get that body moving, get the blood flowing, because we really are not meant to be sedentary. Um, you've probably heard this, Carlette, that phrase that sitting is the new smoking. None of us in 2024 are going to pick up a pack of cigarettes, start smoking, and think, I'm doing something good for my health. However, most of us do have very sedentary jobs and very sedentary lives. And I mean, wow, 4 hours can go by the wayside really quickly, and that has a direct impact on our health. So I love the idea of even setting a timer. If you don't, now that we know about joy breaks and now that we know about this 90-minute span of actual productivity, we can make the awareness of when my mind starts to wander. Where am I? Oh, I've been here an hour and a half. But if you don't have that awareness, right, like getting into the habit, set an alert on your phone. Something I work with a lot of my clients with is, put it in your Outlook calendar. Say you're out of the office, unavailable for 5 minutes, several times a day so that you do get that time. Because how many of us have meetings just scheduled over our break time, right? So some of it is claiming back your power and investing in yourself that I'm going to make this happen.
Well, and when we do, we show up so much better for ourselves, for our family, for our health. That's really winning our day. So we know that we're taking joy breaks throughout the day. That's the 3 to 5 minutes, super simple. Now let's go into really that movement that is taking care of our body from a week perspective, because we know there's times when we need to be, doing our workouts, and whether that's strength or stretch. I also want to be intentional about our rituals and routines of, are you working out in the morning before you go to work? Is that a winning strategy for you? Do you need it in the afternoon where it's the ability for you to decompress and let go of all that stress? Are you doing maybe your physical weights in the morning because that's when it works for you? And then in the evenings, you're taking a walk with your partner, with your family, with your animals. So, Dr. Hunter, set us up to really understand how do we win basically our days and our week with our physical movement and what we're eating before and after.
Yeah, so I like to think of, whatever time that's going to be likely that you get your exercise in, that's when I want you to focus on, right? Lifestyle medicine is very client focused, individual focused. So if I tell you, oh, well, it's better to exercise in the morning, but you are not a morning person and you get out of bed 5 minutes before you need to be at your desk,
Yeah.
probably not going to happen,
Yeah.
right? So let's lean into, our self-awareness and know what's a winning strategy for us. However, I do know that most people are much more successful if they can build their daily movement into their morning routine. Because how often do we start the day with the intention, but then we get busy and then somebody adds the 3 p.m. meeting and like, oh, dinner's not ready, So it is a little bit of an investment in yourself to say, I'm really going to commit to getting my movement in the morning so that it happens, right? We can be much more successful with that strategy. However, if you already have a great habit of working out in the evenings, I'm not going to tell you to change that. One caveat is really intense exercise within an hour of bedtime can make it harder to fall asleep. So just be aware of that. But everything, mild to moderate exercise up until about an hour before bedtime should not impact your sleep, may even help you fall asleep a little easier and get some deeper sleep through the night. So, really, there's kind of no wrong way to add in physical activity. And when we think about those buckets of the cardio, the strength training, and the stretching and flexibility, I really like to kind of create what could my week look like, right? When you're doing strength training for the average person, it's 2 to 3 days a week and really non-consecutive days because you want to give those muscles times to heal. If you do kind of split arm and leg days, you could do some every day, right? Because you're still giving your body that space and time. So really thinking about, okay, cardio you can kind of fit in, right? You can make that happen. It can be a walk, it can be on your lunch break. And what we know from the data is that 10 minutes, the power of 10, it's a great thing to aim for at a minimum, right? We can get that little cardio burst, that exercise snack in. Um, so don't really think like, oh, I've got to go to the gym and run on a treadmill. It's got to be this amount of time. We can work cardio in throughout the day and, maybe with muscle training too, right? Like what I just said, you can do some air squats at your desk. If you do that 3 or 4 times a day, you've got your squats in, right? But we can get a total body workout with resistance bands or handheld weights or body weights. You can do that in 15 to 25 minutes. So again, don't think like I've got to go to the gym and lift heavy. Certainly, if that's something you love to do, lean into that. However, most of us are just trying to fit this in our busy lives. So, really kind of thinking, okay, I can start my day off with a walk. I can end my day with a walk. I'm going to get my cardio that way. And, set a schedule. Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going to be intentional about a morning exercise video where I'm getting some strength training. And for the stretching and flexibility piece, I mean, that could look like yoga. That could look like Pilates. That could look like just that bedtime wind down stretching that you're doing. We really do recommend some stretching and flexibility training every day. So add it to your cardio, add it to your resistance, right? You don't want to go hard and then ignore those muscles. So a little bit of stretching and flexibility every day is kind of part of that winning strategy.
And from a gut health perspective, we know now we've got our body set up to move. What are we doing? That's the external. What are we doing internally to really make sure that our gut and our physical activity are in sync and really winning for us?
Yeah, the great thing about physical activity and gut health is that it all improves gut health. So it can be cardio, it can be resistance. HIIT exercise has actually been studied and shows a really good improvement in the gut health. And some of it is kind of getting that heart rate up, right? You're getting more blood flow to the gut. It's kind of exchanging, washing out toxins, getting good nutrients. Exercise has been shown to improve the lining of the gut, the diversity of the microbiome that we've already talked about. So the good thing and maybe the easy point to take away from here is just like all movement matters, all movement is good for your gut. So it's kind of just working that in throughout the day, throughout the week. And really, the goal is like how do we just move more throughout the day? Right? We were not meant to be sedentary, has direct impacts on our health. And so whether it's your joy breaks, whether it's being intentional about your morning routine or having that wind down at the end of the day, another nice place to insert exercise, Carlette, is like that 3 p.m. slump.
Mm,
Your cortisol level is low, maybe like lunch wasn't so great, you're having a sugar crash. That's a great time to even take a longer period of time and really be intentional about some body movement. It's going to wake you up. It's going to help manage your blood sugar if that's part of the issue. So, there's really no wrong answer. And when you're thinking about physical activity, it's what do I enjoy?
mhm.
What's my capabilities? What am I able to do? And also thinking about, do I have any injuries I need to be mindful of? You don't want to keep going hard at something that's going to keep injuring your body. When we think about doing things in seasons, sometimes there's a season of rest where your activity is going to be a little bit more gentle, a little lighter. Doesn't mean we don't do it at all, but we can really tailor our physical activity to what's going on in our day, what's going on in our body, and come back in a as a different level of activity at a later time when it's better for us.
Well, and I love the power of 10 and having fun. Being able to stat up when we do our movement on a scale of 1 to 10, how do I feel? 1, not so fabulous, 10, fabulous. Am I having fun? Is this something that I will build into a ritual and routine? Is this something that I will do consistently? That's really how we win life, is finding these things that we love to do so that it becomes a habit and it's something that our body can count on, we can count on. I love adding the companion component. Really, there's nothing that makes anything better than adding, a teammate, a friend, a partner, somebody that you can have that extra connection with. Talk on those walks. Have some time when you're really able to honor you. Let your exercise and your movement be for self care. Let it be that feeling of not something you have to do, but something you want to do that's really for you. And that's a good way to hold it from a mental perspective is I am for me. And I'm going to make these choices. I'm going to take joy breaks. I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to actually model for my people that I work with or my teammates that I'm with how to actually set myself up to win mentally, physically, emotionally, taking care of the inside of me and the outside of me. Dr. Hunter, thank you so much for the gift of movement matters and how do we win it? The power of 10 and make sure you're having fun. Thank you, Dr. Hunter.
Thank you.